The Acolyte showrunner Leslye Headland is attempting to justify her destruction of the character of Yoda by pointing out that Dave Filoni's The Clone Wars already destroyed his character. You literally cannot make this stuff up. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Tron Report. Also, hit that like button. Let's get more people to watch this video and beat that YouTube algorithm. I wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com yesterday, and Headland attempted to make her justification in an interview with Inverse. But before we get to her comments, let's provide some context as to what happens in the show's final episode, because I know a lot of people just aren't watching the show. Completely fell off the Nielsen charts in just its third week, which is, I believe that's its fourth episode debut there. Completely off the charts, less than 300 million minutes watched by its third week. So this is what actually happens in the show. Jedi Master Vernestra Rwoh lies to various members of the Galactic Republic about what happened on the planet of Brendok. This is what she says. Recently, when the truth threatened to come out, a rogue Jedi named Sol killed his accomplices to maintain the cover story. Speaking on behalf of the High Council, we wholly condemn the actions of Master Sol. When asked where Sol was, Rwoh says he was found dead on Brendok at the scene of his original crime. I believe he ended his own life. In reality, May murdered Master Indara. Master Torbin killed himself. Master Kelnaka was murdered by Chimere. And Osha murdered Sol. And that did not take place all on Brendok. Obviously, Indara, Torbin, and Kelnaka took place on various planets across the galaxy. And Osha did indeed murder Sol on Brendok. Obviously, there's still a lot that I could cover here. I'm just going to kind of skip over all the stuff that happened on Brendok in the flashback episodes. So, following these lies to the Senate, Rwoh then visits Yoda and informs him, "Sorry to disturb you, Master. We need to talk." The show then ends with the implication that Rwoh would be informing Yoda of what actually happened. All of this makes a mockery of Yoda, given the Jedi Master was able to sense the death of his fellow Jedi throughout the galaxy during the events depicted in The Revenge of the Sith. We literally see him kind of almost having like a heart attack, or he's being emotionally assaulted as we witness the deaths of various Jedi Masters on the various planets where they're leading their clones, who obviously eventually betray them through Order 66. So I find it hard to imagine that Yoda would not have felt the deaths of Indara, Torbin, Kelnaka, and Sol, given that they all kind of happen pretty close together. I would probably say within a week or two is what it looks like. How often, who knows what the actual time frame is, but that appears to be kind of what the time frame is within the show. And so you would think that Yoda, being so attuned to his Jedi, would have felt their deaths. It's also hard to imagine that Yoda would not have sensed that these four Jedi were covering something up after their time on Brendok. It's likely Yoda was present as Sol campaigned to have Osha trained as a Jedi, much as he was for Anakin during the Phantom Menace. Remember the scene with Qui-Gon? One would have thought that Sol would have done something similar. And they obviously did approve of Osha being trained as a Jedi, despite her being too old to be trained. So one would think that Yoda was aware of this, because this is such an abnormality, something that is very strange for the Jedi. So complete destruction of Yoda's character, showing him as incompetent, showing them that he's clearly involved in covering up these lies, attacking his integrity, basically just destroying the character of Yoda, all because Leslye Headland wanted to just have him in there for that little cameo. It does so much destruction to his character. It's absolutely unfathomable that they did this, but what did they do with Luke Skywalker? They did it so, you look back at how they do this, this is what they do. They just destroy characters over and over and over again. Because they hate these characters. They hate these characters that are paragons of truth, justice, and at the end of the day, what is indeed right, because they want to attack that. So this is how Headland attempted to justify all this. She told Inverse this: "It's not like it's the first time Yoda has hidden something from the Senate and the Republic. The Clone Wars Season 6, it's revealed that he covered up the creation of the clone army and asked everybody to not say who was behind it." So she justifies her destruction of Yoda by pointing out that Dave Filoni had already ruined Yoda in the Clone Wars Season 6 by covering up the creation of the clone army. Literally cannot make this stuff up. Truly despicable stuff here. And fortunately, the Clone Wars is an animated show. Probably less people have seen that than have seen the movies. Way less people have seen that than the movies. And as far as I'm concerned, a lot of that stuff is kind of just superfluous. I don't think a lot of it is indeed true to what George's vision is. I think George has talked about this a lot, and we have a lot of other people that have talked about how George kind of set guidelines, and he might have been involved more heavily on certain episodes and things, but a lot of times he did leave a lot of it to Dave Filoni and his team. And we know kind of how that went. There's the whole contradictions with the what was that with the father, the son, the daughter, all of that stuff. The Mortis gods really kind of ruins what the Force actually is. It's very contradictory. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And they've played coy with a lot of that, Filoni specifically. I don't even think George has actually addressed any of that stuff. But earlier in the interview, Headland also noted that she had a fight to have Yoda included in the show. Inverse's Livy Scott asked this or said this: starting from the very end of the episode and working our way back, I hear you had to fight hard to get Yoda in the stinger. She clearly should have fought a lot harder and should have been told no. That should have been the answer. But this is Lucasfilm we're talking about. But this is what Headland responded. She says, yes, I mean, I wouldn't say fight hard in a totally super adversary way. It's more like that's a big character. So it's not fighting in an aggressive way, but definitely a spirited conversation. When pressed for more details about what the conversation was, Headland said this: yeah, there was the logistics of it all for sure, but then there were some, I'd say almost spiritual conversations about using such an iconic character. I felt strongly about it because I felt that to me, Vernestra was in a situation that was so heightened and really needed to be taken care of internally. She was already feeling this pressure of, if you don't have a suspect, then we have a real problem. Rey and Court suggest the internal review of the Jedi, obviously at the small council, but Chancellor Drellick doesn't confirm or deny that request. It felt like she had to report to her superior and let him know what's up and probably tell him about what happened between her and her Padawan. So obviously her Padawan is Chimere. That's implied as well, because she's like senses him through the Force after he takes off his helmet, and she's like, you're alive? Basically implying that it is her Padawan there who is the stranger or Chimere. When Inverse's Scott notes this parallels Dooku being Yoda's apprentice, Headland said this: I was also just interested in Phantom Menace when he immediately is like, there's always a master and apprentice. It's not like he was alive during the new Sith Wars, so I guess there's a chance that it was a piece of information that was passed down through the generations. But because I had the opportunity to work in Star Wars, I just think a more interesting version of this is that he has some understanding of what's going on. She then concluded, so it just felt to me that there was something fun to explore there if we were allowed to talk about and to do more seasons. There was a large conversation about including him, but I just thought, I mean, it's my show. So she basically sounds like she bullied her way into getting Yoda. This is my vision. This is what I want to do. And the people at Lucasfilm seemingly just rolled out the red carpet for her and rolled over, no matter how much damage it does to the character, no matter how much damage it does to the franchise, no matter how much damage it does to the brand. They gave Leslye Headland what she wanted. And there is no doubt that this show did massive amounts of damage to the brand. As I stated, it fell off the Nielsen charts after its third week. After its third week, fell off the Nielsen charts, less than 300 million minutes watched, according to Nielsen. That is absolutely abysmal. People are trashing this show. You have people like Grace Randolph who were trying their best to defend and praise this show throughout, completely do a 180 and trash the show in its final 2 episodes. The brand damage is done. You've got Leslye Headland now begging people to launch a social media campaign in order to try and get a second season greenlit. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen for her. I think that's actually a good thing for Star Wars. I think that's a good thing for viewers, that they won't be exposed to more of her bile and vile that she's trying to indoctrinate people into, this idea that she is the villain and that the villains are actually good. It's absolutely sick and disgusting, the kind of things she has said on how she relates to Chimera as an avatar for herself. So they should have nipped this in the bud. This show literally never should have been greenlit. I think this has done irreparable damage to the brand. It is, I think, almost at the same level as The Last Jedi. I think The Last Jedi did way more damage just because Star Wars was still at probably the height of its popularity in the modern era outside of like the 70s and 80s. And I think that there was still a lot of optimism about what would happen in The Last Jedi, and Rian Johnson and Lucasfilm completely and utterly gutted that optimism, destroyed it. We saw what happened with Solo, complete and utter decimation. The first feature film in Star Wars history to lose money. And I think The Acolyte is on a similar trajectory. Obviously, there aren't as many people that are still interested in Star Wars at this point, but I think the people that were, it has kind of done the same thing, and maybe even done worse, because like I said, you have people like Grace Randolph who love what Lucasfilm is all about, post Last Jedi, are now turning on this show. And I think that just speaks for itself. You've got people that like The Last Jedi have now turned on Lucasfilm for what they have done in The Acolyte. But let me know what you guys make of what Leslye Headland had to say here, how she justified the destruction of Yoda, basically putting the blame on Dave Filoni and the Clone Wars, and pointing like, oh, look, he was already destroyed. I'm just doing more of it. Just despicable stuff here. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, but to always speak the truth.